Angelic Gospel Singers, living legends, singing since 1944. And here we are in Philadelphia with the fantastic Angelic Gospel Singers. And are we proud? We're proud because we're here. This is Diane Brown, and we are from WURD Radio 900 Love, and we'll be interviewing the Angelic Gospel Singers on their first video. And we're excited, and welcome to this interview today. We're just excited. We're all here with Margaret from the Angelics and her beautiful sister and Joe. And we just say welcome, and let's just talk about the Angelic Gospel Singers.
Thank you.
We're just happy
We're
to be
excited
here.
too.
No, this video is a great video, and everybody's excited about it.
Yes, we're very excited.
Let's start with, we just looked at an old picture of the Angelics. And time have seasoned you ladies to just look so beautiful, and you're just glowing. And we start off with somebody is praying. Someone had to be praying for you for all these years. And let's talk about the beginning of the Angelics and how all of this phenomenon started with the living legends and females. It's hard enough traveling as a group, and we heard the stories from the Dixie Hummingbirds and all of the groups that were traveling in the early days as men, and they had to sleep in the car, they told me, and you get there and the promoter went out the back door. So many things happened. Let's talk about the early days of the Angelic Gospel Singers. Joe, let's start with you, and what really inspired you to want to be a singer and to travel on the road?
Well, I was inspired through my sister because she used to sing and play when we was all kids, you know.
Yeah.
And when she started singing, then I wanted to sing too.
You said she wasn't going to leave you, right? And you come from a family of 6.
Yeah.
3 boys and 3 girls,
Right.
but just you and Margaret decided to make a career out of singing.
Right.
That's beautiful. And Margaret, how did you start with that piano and all of that style that you have?
Well, I started when I was about 12 years old playing for church. We were brought up in a Pentecostal church.
All right.
And I started out playing for this church, and there was one lady that would come to our church that played the piano, and she did sing too. And her name was Valerie Starks. And I just idolized Valerie. I wanted to play and sing just like Valerie.
Really?
And I started just practicing. Every time I'd get a chance, I'd get to the piano and I'd say, pretend I'm Valerie, and I'd sit down and play and sing. And by doing that, then I started playing. I taught myself how to play.
You taught yourself?
I taught myself. I didn't take music lessons. Of course, I regret that I didn't do it, but I didn't. But I learned to play and played for the church. And at that particular time, the pastor of the church was a lady, and wherever she went to preach, she would take me along as her piano player.
So you started out as a piano player and, of course, playing in the church and being inspired by someone that you thought was great in the business. And after, you say you started in 1944 actually singing on the road. Now, how did you get around you young ladies? How did you get your parents to allow you, or were you already kind of grown? We're not
we were
up anything.
we were grown and married on our own.
In the 20s.
All right, so you were young ladies starting out, stretching out in the career, and you were allowed to go out. Your husband's allowed you to sing. Now, that wasn't easy, was it?
Yes, it was, because that's what my husband, he encouraged me. He wanted me to sing. And then when I said I was going to, I started out singing, really, with the group here in Philly. It was called the Spiritual Echoes.
Spiritual Echoes?
Yes, it was like a, well, I say it wasn't a group of 4 or 5. It was like, I call it a course because it was 9 of us in that course. Okay. But through a dream that I had, that's how I started the Angelics, from a dream that I had.
Let's talk about that dream, Margaret.
Well, I dreamed that this lady that I said that was the pastor of a church, our church when we were coming up, I dreamed that she suggested to me, why not start my own group? And if I would start my own group, she said, the Lord will bless you. And in my dream, I couldn't go along with it. I said, no, I can't have a group. And she said, oh yeah, start your own group and the Lord will bless you. And then I said, well, if I would start my own group, what would I call my group? And the name Angelic Gospel Singers came to me in this dream. And I decided that when I told my sister and 2 of the members the other two ladies that were members of the Angelics, they were in this group also, the Spiritual Echoes. And I told them about my dream. And they said, well, if you want to start your own group, we're with you. We'll work with you. And I said, okay. Well, at that time, it was just going to be 3 of us. But my sister's husband, he heard me talking about it. And he says, well, why don't you let your sister sing with you? She's not doing anything. Let her sing. So I asked her if she wanted to sing, and she said yes. So then we just got together and started rehearsing.
Started singing. You had that encouragement from home and traveling out on the road. And I know that it wasn't easy to start because back in that time, in the 40s, money was scarce.
Yes.
And I know that traveling, did you start out with, where'd you get a car? I mean, how do you start just going on the road?
We were going by train.
Train?
Yes.
All right.
We would take a train and go to places like, say, we started off. 2 of the young ladies that was with us, Miss Norris, her home was in Greenville, South Carolina. Miss Sherd, her home was in Asheville, North Carolina. So we started by going to their homes. We'd go to Asheville and to Greenville. And once we got into these towns, people would come to the program, or say 7 o'clock in the evening, you couldn't even get near the place. And they would just come, and it was open door. And they would ask us, well, where are you going to be tomorrow night? And if we say, well, we're not going to be anywhere tomorrow, well, come on over to my church tomorrow night and sing. So we would announce that we're going to be at such and such a church tomorrow night, and the people would follow us. Well, once we got in a town, we didn't have any problem with transportation because everybody would say, well, we'll come and pick you up and take you. And bring you back. So we didn't have any problem with transportation at that time once we got in town. Then we decided we wanted to venture out and go a little farther. And a friend of one of the ladies lived in Mount Dora, Florida. And he said, come to Mount Dora. I want you to come to Mount Dora. He said, and you can sing all around Florida. So we decided we'd go to Mount Dora. We went to Mount Dora. We worked in Mount Dora, Leesburg, Eustis, Tavares. We just worked on Orlando. We just worked everywhere.
And you know, here we are in 1990, sitting with the Angelics, and they're talking about in the 40s, they traveled through Florida, and here's people that is thinking of a Florida vacation as something that they have to save money up for years. You ladies really broke the doors open for many singers to be able to travel, because in the 40s, who was singing in the early 40s when you ladies were out there? I mean, were there other groups that were coming right behind you in the places that you were going, or who was out there then?
Well, in the 40s when we started, the ward singers were singing, but the ward singers weren't actually on the road like we were. They would go like to the Baptist convention or something, and then they would go maybe to Detroit or Chicago once in a while. But we just continued to make it. We would come home. We go and stay maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks out there on the road, and we come home and stay maybe a week or 2, and we go right back out there.
That's beautiful. And you know, Margaret, I was just thinking, and we're here in Philadelphia doing this interview with Fantastic Angelics because they're from Philadelphia, and they were always from Philadelphia. And most of the groups came from the South, and we know that, but we got something on you Southern folks. We have the best that came out of Philadelphia, the angelic gospel singers, and we're proud, and that's why we're doing part of this interview, and they're home, and we're here live talking to them on this interview on their first video. And Philadelphia back in the early 40s and coming out of the city here, really having to travel. You had a long distance to travel. It wasn't like you were just in your area. That was some long riding on the train. It was like you had to ride overnight and, and sleep on the train.
And then it was segregated then, you know.
Oh, let's talk
you
about
had
that.
You had to ride on the back coaches. You couldn't.
I know about the bus on the train. They made you ride in the back too.
Yeah, they had trains.
Oh, really? Okay, we're opening up a lot of things. That made it hard for you.
Yes,
Because you had to go through the South, living in the North, not quite experiencing all the things that they had experienced in the South. You girls had a lot of nerve, but you all had God.
So let me tell you what happened with us. One time we left to go to Florida, and when we got there, got off the train, and we had 4 pennies between the 4 of us.
And each one
for the
That's right.
Each one, we said, okay, it's 4 inches, so we had one, gave each person a penny. That was all we had after paying our fare and everything. That's all we had.
But was this to come home with?
No. This was,
we were
on our way. We were just leaving home, going to Florida.
Okay.
But when we got there, they had a program already scheduled for us, and we went. One of the pastors of a church asked us to come to the church Sunday morning just to do one song, and we went there and did that one song, and they took offering for us, and we were blessed, and we just thank God for how He took care of us, because it was rough out there, but we survived.
Beautiful, and you know. And you think about that's 46 years ago,
right?
And you know that you've come this far by faith.
Oh,
right,
you still are working and traveling, and your other sister does the booking on the phone, doing all of your bookings for you.
Yes, she takes care of my phone calls.
The others just never decided to come along with you. Your other sisters or brothers never decided that they wanted to get into.
Well, we only have one other sister.
Okay.
But our brothers, no, they weren't into singing.
Okay.
They were never interested in it.
Let's move on up in the years and see if we can take a look at some of these pictures that you've brought along. Now, this is one of my favorites of the Angelic Gospel Singers. When the old microphones, let's see if our cameraman can get a view of this picture here of the Angelics in 1951. You'll see Josephine here, and you'll see Margaret on the bottom there. And we see if we can get a close-up of this particular picture. And this picture that we're looking at, I can see some of the Clara Ward hairdos coming in. Those hairdos come from the Clara Ward era I'm looking at there, and back in that era of the 50s, that kind of pump hairstyle. Ladies got real jazzy and made a few dollars, and look at these black dresses, and I tell you, you ladies were ready then. In 51, had you already recorded a hit record then?
Oh, yes. Yes, we had made Touch Me. Touch Me, we recorded that in 47. That was our first recording. That was our first recording, and it was an overnight success.
Overnight success. And during that time, was it hard to get on a label? I know you're with Malico now, and Malico's doing fantastic things for the Angelics, and we're so proud of that company and the Angelics and what they've done for you down in Mississippi. But trying to get that first contract, that first record, was it hard, and what did you have to do?
We didn't have any problem. A friend of ours, he was a promoter here in town, and he had heard us sing naturally, so he came to me and said, I got a man downtown that has a studio, he said, and I would like for you to go down there and talk to him, he said, and I said, because I think you should make a record. And I said, well, we'll go down and talk with him. So we went down to, it was the Gotham Recording Company, that was the name of it. And we went down, and he interviewed us, and he said to me, he said, I want you, for your first song, I want you to record something that nobody else haven't recorded. He said, I don't want anything that somebody else has recorded. I want you to do something that nobody else has recorded, and something that you arranged yourself. He said, even if you didn't write it. If you arranged it, he said, because once you establish your sound, he said, that's all we need. So I said to him, I said, well, I have one song, I said, that I arranged, I said, and I'll let you hear it. He says, okay, let me hear it. So we got together, and I got at the piano, and we started singing Touch Me. He said, that's the song, that's the one I want. And we recorded that song, and he put that song out. We didn't have any problem at all. And as I said, it was an overnight success.
Overnight success.
Yes, and the sales were so great that his company couldn't press enough records. He had to get another record company to help press the records.
Oh, and if we had the Grammys in that day, you'd won the Grammys.
Oh, I think I would have.
As far as I'm concerned, you deserve them all. First of all, for being committed and dedicating and staying and holding on. And I know that sometime it got hard, and I know that you all have families and you have children, and you had to have had it very hard trying to keep a household together and raising children and being on the road. How did you handle the children? Did you carry them with you sometimes, or?
Well, sometimes during the summer when children were out of school, I had 2 sons, and I would take my 2 sons with us to North Carolina, and then they would stay there because one of the members, I told you that was her home in Nashville, and her mother lived there, And her mother said, well, let the children stay here with me. Right. And I would leave my 2 sons there, and they would stay until we go and do certain dates, and then we come back, pick them up, and come on home.
And Joe, you're semi-retired. You'll never retire. We're not going to let you do that. Margaret is not going to let you do that. But you're semi-retired. What is one of the things that you've learned most about being on the road and singing out there? What are some of the things that you really have as precious memories or a special time that you remember the most about being out there on the road singing as a part of the Angelics?
Going from one city to the other, and big crowds and everything. And I just, in fact, I did enjoy all of it.
All of it. You loved it.
Yes, I loved it.
And Joe, who is your favorite singer or artist that you sort of looked up to? She talked about the piano player that inspired her, and she used to pretend she was her. But was there special singers that you enjoyed back in the earlier days of gospel? And
no, not really. Like she said, we all admired Valerie.
All right, Valerie was really something, I tell you.
She was.
Valerie don't know the doors that she's opened as far as the Angelics. Just for a few moments, we want to come up to date. We have a few action pictures here on the Fantastic Angelics, and one of the latest pictures of the Angelics taken from your latest album entitled? The latest
Lord,
album.
You Gave Me Another Chance.
Lord, You Gave Me Another Chance is the latest album. Let's come up a little bit and talk about how you feel about the music of today and a lot of the gospel that you're hearing now. If we can get just a little bit of opinion of what sound you'd like to hear gospel. I know that your kind of gospel and this that you sing will never die. This is that God-given music that touches the soul of people. But what is your favorite music? And I know that it's gospel, but how do you feel about the music today? And what is the favorite that you can listen to today and feel like you have put that trend out there for a lot of people to come after you and record? What do you really like today? Do you have special artists that you like today? We're all the way up in the 90s now.
Well, I'll answer that question. I like, say, it's contemporary music that they're, playing now, and I like it. It's just that I wouldn't do it myself because I feel as though that I have established my sound, and for me to vary from it, it would take something from the Angelics. So, but I love to hear. I listen to the keynotes and the Williams brothers. I just love to hear that, because there's certain songs that they sing. And well, the Jubes are not really contemporary. No, but I say.
But they've done some contemporary songs.
Yes, they have done some. Yes, they have. They have. But I feel as though that with gospel as it is today, there is something to suit everybody.
Yes.
For those that don't like the traditional gospel, what we're doing, if they want to hear the contemporary, they have groups out there that's doing contemporary. So when we go on the programs, usually it's with other groups that's doing contemporary, and then they bring on the Angelics. We are the traditional gospel. Beautiful. So I like contemporary. Oh yeah, there are certain songs that I just like to hear groups do, but I wouldn't try to do it because it wouldn't come out right.
Okay, you have to go with what you feel.
Yeah.
And you know that you feel this gospel here, and I sure feel it too, and I know you feel it because the Angelics have gotten the victory, and we're so proud to be able to do this today, and this has been marvelous, and you have learned some things today about the Angelics that none of us knew. We have went back into the history of the Angelics, and they certainly are living legends, and we're happy that these Philadelphia gals have sang souls happy throughout the world. And we hope that you enjoy all of this video, and we say God bless you from the Angelics and yours truly, Diane Brown, and we're going to leave you with this picture, the latest from the Angelic Gospel Singers. God bless.